anguish and the usual blame game has gripped the city of Mumbai. This even as 6 innocent people were crushed to death for simply walking over on a foot overbridge in Mumbai near CSTM station. And the bridge crumbled last evening near CST railway station, which is one of the busiest during one of the busiest traffic hours. Crumbling infrastructure, crumbling bridges have become a part and parcel of life in India's financial capital. This was the third bridge to fall in the 18 months, claiming a total of 31 lives. And just like that, the previous incidents, the finger pointing is on full swing. Here is the kicker. 2 facts that expose the apathy. Just 6 months ago, an audit report had certified that this bridge was in good condition and had proposed only minor repairs. And the BMC now says the bridge was built from 1984 to 1986, but the consultant showed the construction date as 1998. The Mumbai police put the blame squarely on the civic body BMC, the richest in the country. The BMC has just released a preliminary report pointing fingers at the auditor. An inquiry has been launched against 2 retired civic engineers. 2 current officials have also been suspended. Well, money is certainly not an issue for the BMC, but implementation clearly is. 10% of its total budget of over 30,000 crore rupees is for infrastructure development, but as of December, the BMC had used only 47% of its overall budget. Why can't the civic authorities get their act together? The city contributes almost about 6% to India's GDP, 33% to the country's total direct tax revenue. But the BMC takes on average 48 days to address a single complaint. And there is no dearth of complaints. The BMC received over 92,000 complaints in 2017. Well, these are some of the issues that we will highlight on this show here on CNBC-TV18. And joining me today in this discussion is former BMC Commissioner Subodh Kumar. We have Saili Udas Mankikar, Senior Fellow at Observer Research Foundation. We have Anjali Bharadwaj, an RTI activist who joins us from Delhi. Mr. Subodh Kumar, let me come to you first. You've been in the BMC, you've worked in that system. Where are we going wrong right now? There have been multiple instances. 3 bridge collapsed in just 1 year. Still there has been no answers, no learnings. Where are we going wrong?
See, this is a man-made disaster. Bridges which are old, this bridge was 35 years old. So one can understand it has lived its life. But bridge can last even 50 years also. So they are supposed to be inspected every year after they become a certain age. And you find there any rusting or not. In this particular case, the auditor report, it is told, says that everything is fine. If everything is fine, the bridge will not collapse. Either the report is written wrongly, that means no tests have been carried out, but they are mentioned to have been carried out. Again, what kind of audit report is this, which is ordered in 2016, somewhere in July, and the report comes 2 years later. Even the last test which is done is more than 1.5 years earlier. So I think it's a gross negligence, and somebody has to be responsible for culpable homicide. Whether auditor who gave a wrong report or did not carry out the inspection, or if the report is right, that means if report is saying it's a bridge which has lived its life and it should be demolished. In that case, some officer should be responsible. And I think if audit report is wrong, somebody has not supervised when he was carrying out the audit actually, the third-party auditor.
Right. Who really takes that square accountability, sir, when it comes to BMC looking at tenders being given out or the audits being done? Isn't it squarely the responsibility of the BMC to look into it?
See, ideally, railway has a wonderful system of audit. They inspect their bridges every year. They also remove the rust from the steel structure. This is also a steel bridge actually. They also paint it every year. That's why there are hardly any accidents in the railway platforms actually of this kind. BMC lacks that protocol. It needs to be developed. And just to say that we are going to third-party auditor who will carry out all this and give us a report is not enough. Somebody should look into whether it is actually done the close inspection by climbing that height. It's at least 25 feet high bridge actually. You cannot inspect it from the ground. To say that it was in good condition, it collapsed is not correct. I mean, it cannot collapse if it is in good condition.
Right. So the issue is one on what the audits actually were conducted, and we still don't have clarity, while the BMC report says that there were multiple tests were conducted by the audit company, and after that they found it to be in good condition. But it certainly raises a question on what really was the audit protocol for the company. Sally, let me bring you here in this conversation. We are talking about auditors being given the audit work orders in 2016. The work audit starts in 2017. The report is submitted in 2018. What are we looking at, when it comes to audit of structural structures in Mumbai under BMC, where certainly money is not a concern? Where do you think are we going wrong as a city or as the municipality of BMC?
I think there needs to be a two-pronged approach here. One is where, all our tenders, where BMC is concerned, all the tenders, all big works, they go through a standing committee, which is members of the political class from either parties. I mean, the blame game always goes on, but members from both the political parties actually take a call on what is the work to be done or not to be done. Typically, if you attend a standing committee meeting, you will see that they never ever pass anything in the first go. Everything is, everything is put on a hold, at least for the 1 month period that they are allowed to. Because obviously there is much more than meets the eye here. There are cuts and undercuts to everything. So one is, of course, the political apathy that comes here, where they don't care, I think, about people. It is more about what is the money flow around. So one is that. Second, when you're asking about audits, I think we need to have an asset infrastructure management audit system in place. So if you look at countries abroad, what do? If you look at bridge asset management that they do, they actually look at climate. How is the climate changing? How is it affecting the bridge? What about the seepage? If there is more rain on in a certain year, what is happening? Is it percolating in, out? So what Subodhji said is actually right, that there is a sense of apathy and we are not upgrading our systems. There needs to be an upgrade in the way we audit and also the methodologies in which we audit.
You spoke about money flow being one of the, concern points, but if we talk of Mumbai, if we talk of the BMC, money is certainly not an issue. It's the richest municipality in the country. If there were some other municipalities that we were talking about, we could understand that maybe the budget allocation is not happening or the expenditure, they don't have budget to carry out these repair works or maintenance work. So certainly money is not an issue here.
So if you look at the budget of the BMC, what is it going to? Like 60% of the budget is going to administrative expenses, right? Of the remaining expenses, like this time they have allocated a lot of money to capital works. But these are going for big ticket projects like the coastal road, etc. A lot of this money is put in for maintenance expenses. So you need to understand that money, so when anything goes into a maintenance expense, of course there is a contractor involved and there are people involved in the standing committee and there are bureaucrats involved in this whole process. But where is the money for asset replacement? So when a bridge might be a 50, I mean you might assess that a bridge might stay for 50 years, but maybe it might not live its entire life and it needs to be brought down and constructed again. So there needs to be expenses for asset replacement, which is clearly not there.
Mr. Subodh Kumar, before I bring in Anjali Bhardwaj here, just one word. She's saying the asset replacement structuring is not in place as far as BMC is concerned. We spoke about how money is not a problem. In your experience of being with the BMC, if money was not an issue, what is the systemic problem there when it comes to taking care of or bringing in place asset reconstruction or asset management sort of structuring in place?
That's what I said. Once you are ordering an audit, it's an old asset, there has to be time-bound activity. The audit report should come within few months actually, 2-3 months. If audit report is coming 2 years late, it is no audit report actually. And BMC is saying that everything was all right and all kinds of tests have been done. It only means the report is mentioning that every test has been done. If every test had been done and everything was in healthy condition, the bridge will never collapse.
Right.
It's not a magic.
Right. Let me bring in Anjali Bhardwaj here in this conversation. Anjali, if you can hear me, the report that BMC has submitted today, the Chief Vigilance Officer, the report that they've submitted today, it highlights that the work order for the audit of this particular bridge, the Himalaya Bridge at the CST station, the work order was issued in 2016. The inspection and the audit work on this bridge started in 2017. Additional work was done in 2018 and the report was submitted in August of 2018. From a vigilance point of view, from an accountability point of view, what do you make of this report? And and based on this, the accountability has been fixed on certain chief engineers who were responsible for oversight and also on the companies that were auditing. How do you look at the report that BMC has released today?
Well, what this particular report points towards is a complete crisis of accountability. Because if you look at what has happened, this is a bridge which is about 35 years old. In 2013, from the report, what one can see, the bridge underwent a whole process of renovation. And then in 2016, there was supposed to be an audit which took, like somebody said, 2 years to undertake. And it actually gives a good report that it's in good condition, this particular bridge. And what we are seeing now is this bridge has collapsed, costing human life. So clearly, every step of the way, there is a problem of accountability. And it's there in the report to see, because one issue that comes up is that within 6 years of major structural repairs taking place to this bridge, how have things gone so bad that this actually collapsed the way in which it did? So there are accountability questions there, where money has been clearly spent, but not spent properly enough. Secondly, the timeline in which the audit should have been done. These audits are not done for free. They're done with public exchequer's money. So there are supposed to be proper systems of holding auditors to account as well, making sure that they do their job in a time-bound manner and give a proper report. How can an auditor give a report of this nature which is completely misleading? So you see, what this points towards is at best dereliction of duty, but actually it points towards a larger malaise of corruption, because we know that what happens in these cases is that there is collusive corruption, money changes hands, people deliberately close their eyes and look away and allow these kind of things to happen, where we see that where the audit, the structural repairs that were undertaken were of a poor quality. The audit report that is being given is completely wrong. It's not being able to catch the problem that is there in the bridge, and it results in the ultimate cost of corruption, which is human life. So there are issues of accountability, and unfortunately we are seeing this happen repeatedly. So the government, the BMC have to answer, because one cannot say that this was a bridge which was not sort of being looked at, not being taken care of. Clearly everything was happening, public money was being spent on repairs and audits, and yet we have this tragedy which has taken place. Unfortunately, even in the past, when these sort of things are happening, there is not adequate action that is taken. And if proper accountability frameworks are put in place, anti-corruption frameworks are put in place, there are systemic checks on corruption, this sort of a thing would not happen.
All right, Anjali, we'll take this conversation forward on the other side of this break, and we'll delve on the issues on accountability and corruption involved. And we'll also be joined by Rajiv Mishra, urban planner, on the other side of this break. Stay tuned for this very important debate and discussion on the crumbling infrastructure and lack of accountability in Mumbai. Welcome back to this special debate and discussion on the crumbling infrastructure and lack of accountability in Mumbai. We've just had an unfortunate incident yesterday when 6 people were crushed to death for simply walking over a foot-over bridge which was not maintained properly by the civic authorities in the city. And we are discussing who takes the responsibility for this? Joining us now in this conversation is Rajiv Mishra. He's principal of the JJ School of Architecture. Mr. Mishra, thank you so much for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. Let me bring to you the question and the discussion where we left it before we went on the break. Anjali Bharadwaj pointed out that one of the biggest issues, if we look at what BMC has released today in terms of its vigilance report, a preliminary report, suggests a lack of accountability from BMC, one, and second is also about widespread corruption and lack of transparency in how the tendering of these audit firms is concerned. You've been an urban planner for a large part of your career. How do you see these sort of projects being dealt with when it comes to agencies like BMC?
See, I suggest that whenever a project like the bridge repairs or structural repairs of any such kind is done, there should be list of structural consultants who have to be of certain very high value of integrity and certain value of experience, without which this work should never be allotted to them. Second, if there are tenders being taken out, there should be no bidding for such projects. If you get bidding for such projects, you have to select L1, which is the tender where the lowest quotation has to be given the work. So there has to be a certain work designed for giving work in BMC that deals with lives. And such consultants
Mr. Mishra, Mr. Mishra, that is what is absolutely, Mr. Mishra, absolutely with you on this point, that this is how it should be done. But it's not happening. We've seen the audit reports take 2 years to go forward, and then the blame is squarely put on the auditor. Is that the correct way to go forward when fixing accountability, according to you?
Not at all. This is absolutely wrong way to address such issues, especially when you're dealing with public life. I am the user of this bridge. As a principal of JJ College of Architecture, I use 4 times a day. And I just can't imagine what people must have gone through when it would have been fallen. It's a sheer case of neglect. Nobody is maintaining it to the highest degree of requirement. And people have to give their lives for it, which is intolerable, unacceptable. And no citizen of Mumbai should even accept it as an accident. It's murder. I don't think this should be allowed by any agency not to take care of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mr. Mishra. This is certainly murder, and this is culpable homicide, if I may call it that, because it is negligence of the civic authorities. Mr. Subodh Kumar, I wanted to raise this important point about BMC and railways not playing ball with each other. Every time an incident like this happens, the blame game starts on whose responsibility it is to maintain these structures. Even today, even yesterday, the standing committee chief of BMC said that it is the railways who did not grant approvals in time. You have been with the BMC. Is this really a concern point that the agencies don't work together?
No, in this case, the railway has no role to play. It's wrong to say that they have not given permission, but their permission not required. It's a bridge across the BMC road, actually. On both sides, footpath belongs to BMC. So they could have carried out the inspection, repair, whatever they want you to do on this portion, I mean. They don't require NOC from the railways. Somebody must have misinformed the standing committee chairman when he made this statement. And Mr. Mishra said just now that we select on the lowest bid. That's why we choose the wrong consultants. There's a High Court judgment in 2011 that consultants need not be chosen on the lowest bid, actually. When I was commissioner, I had chosen SGS, even without a tender. Somebody had gone to court questioning that, and court said you don't choose advocates or don't choose consultants based on the lowest wage, actually.
Right.
So they have to be the correct people. So that's not the constraints under which BMC functions.
Right, but that's the case across the country. It's not only this tender which is chosen on L1, it's the tenders across the country which are chosen on L1. That's a systemic and a structural policy perspective. But as far as railways and BMC working together, you are saying that is not a problem. That wasn't an issue in your time.
No, at least I didn't have any problem of that kind. Some bridges were to be constructed when I was commissioner. I sat with the GMs of both railways and said either you construct it and we'll give you the money, our portion, or you give your portion of money to us and we'll construct it. So we decided like that. Some were constructed by them, some were constructed by us. So I don't find any difficulty in coordination with the railways.
So coordination with the railways, according to a former BMC chief, is not an issue. Just one last word, if I can get both Mr. Mishra and Anjali Bharadwaj to comment on very briefly. What do you think needs to be done right now to bring this issue up in the eyes of the civic authorities? Elections around the corner, blame games will continue, but will this really become a poll issue, and will people vote based on what the civic authorities are offering to them? Anjali Bharadwaj, one brief comment before we wrap up this, and then I'll go to Mr. Mishra.
Look, blame games are absolutely useless. It's unfortunate, and making this a political game or a blame game is not going to help anyone. What is really required is that there must be a proper transparency and accountability framework. It must be put in place immediately. It doesn't matter how the contractor is finally decided. The tendering, the process, the contract must be public. It must be transparent, so that nobody wants to bid lower than where they can actually build it properly. Because most of the time when we say that L1 is a problem, it's because people know that later they can do corruption and get away without doing the requisite quality of work. We need to have a system in the Lokayukta in Maharashtra, which is supposed to look into cases of corruption, is a completely toothless body. So supposing today somebody even went up with proof of corruption in this kind of a matter, the Lokayukta at best has recommendatory powers in Maharashtra. So why would anybody be scared? If there is no proper system of investigation and prosecution of cases where there is corruption, where there is no accountability of supervisors, this kind of thing will continue. Doesn't matter which government comes to power. What we need is to hold the government accountable, to push the governments. As the electorate, we have a right. It's our money. And like somebody said, this is not somebody dying. This is a case of murder. It's happening because of corruption. And we need to demand from all political parties that they have to come clean and put in place these proper systems so this kind of thing never recurs.
Right, absolutely. Just one small comment that Mr. Subodh has to make before I go to Mr. Ranjan.
I would like to make two observations. Firstly, it's a man-made tragedy, it's not a natural disaster. So somebody should be held guilty of culpable homicide, because 6 lives have been lost. In India, we don't fix the responsibility, suspend some people, take some minor action. In this case, somebody is guilty of culpable homicide, whether it's a consultant or somebody in the organization, Second, if we want to prevent these things from happening in future, because they have been happening earlier, we need not go abroad for learning that. Railways have a system, very systematic way of inspecting bridges, auditing them, and also maintaining them. I think they are very near to BMC, and we should learn and put that protocol in place.
Right. Just before we wrap up, one small brief comment from Mr. Mishra. Mr. Mishra, certain people have been held accountable according to the preliminary report. Some suspension orders have been given. Some agencies have been blacklisted. But does that really assure you of your safety as a citizen in Mumbai? What is it that will bring assurances to the people in Mumbai that their lives are important?
I think whenever it comes to any public project like this, the BMC or the railway should have a committee of experts that will clear these projects, no matter at what cost these projects have been done for. This committee of experts will make sure that things have happened the right way, and it will decide the future line of action of maintaining such life-saving structures. Unless this is done, it should not be open for public, and should not be meant for public to die. Okay? I feel that there should be a committee of experts that should clear a project so that it is fit for use and safety of people.
Right. A committee to look into the safety of people who are using these structures and the safety of these structures put in place. L1 bidders should not be the criteria for selecting auditors, and obviously the Vigilance Committee in BMC and other civic authorities have to have more oversight in what is being served to them and in turn to the people. Well, Anjali Bharadwaj, Rajiv Mishra and Mr. Subodh Kumar, thank you very much for joining us here on this very special discussion and debate on who takes the responsibility for the lives lost in the crumbling infrastructure in Mumbai. Many thanks for watching.